Have you ever wondered why the people who trust God the most often suffer the most? Why the faithful walk through storms that others never seem to face? You pray, you try to live right, you hold on to faith, and yet life becomes harder, not easier. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet question begins to rise. God, why me? Why does the path that was supposed to bring peace sometimes bring pain instead? Why does obedience sometimes feel like struggle instead of blessing? But what if suffering is not a sign that God has left you? What if it is a sign that He is doing something deeper, something unseen, something eternal, something you cannot yet understand? Many people believe that if you follow God, life should become easier, more peaceful, more stable, more predictable, a life without chaos, a life without confusion, a life without pain. But real life does not always look like that. Sometimes, the more you try to grow, the more resistance appears, the more you seek truth, the more confusion surrounds you, the more you try to move forward, the more life seems to push back. Doors that once seemed open suddenly close, opportunities almost happen, then disappear. People you trusted misunderstand you, they question your intentions, they misread your heart, and suddenly you feel alone. Plans you believed in fall apart, dreams you carried begin to fade, and slowly, without even realizing it, your heart begins to whisper, "Did I do something wrong? Did I misunderstand God? Is He testing me, or has He forgotten me?" Because suffering feels like silence, and silence can feel like distance. But the Bible reveals something most people overlook. Suffering is often not the absence of God. It is the evidence of His deeper work. To understand this truth, we must look at those who walked closest with Him. There was a man named Job. He was faithful, not perfect, but sincere. He honored God, not only in public, but in private, and yet his life collapsed. Not slowly, but suddenly. One moment, he had everything. The next, it was gone. His wealth taken, his children gone, his body covered in pain. Everything he built, everything he loved, everything he trusted was stripped away. And then, silence. No explanation, no warning, no reason, just suffering, just loss, just unanswered questions. And in that silence, Job asked what many are afraid to ask. Why? Why would God allow this if I have been faithful? Even his friends misunderstood him. They believed that suffering must mean guilt, that pain must mean failure, that if something goes wrong, you must have done something wrong. But they were wrong, because Job's suffering was not punishment. It was something deeper, something unseen, a spiritual reality beyond human understanding. And even though Job could not see it, God was still there, watching, allowing, working, even in silence. And Job was not alone. Joseph was given a dream from God, a vision of purpose, a future filled with meaning. But that dream did not lead him forward. It led him downward, into betrayal, into rejection, into darkness. His own brothers turned against him. They threw him into a pit, sold him as if he meant nothing, and just like that, the dream seemed shattered. But it did not end there. He was taken to a foreign land, separated from everything familiar, forced into servitude, then falsely accused, thrown into prison, and forgotten. Years passed, not days, not weeks, years, and still no explanation, no clarity, no breakthrough, just waiting, just silence, just faith. And somewhere in that darkness, Joseph may have wondered, was the dream real? Or did I misunderstand God? Because sometimes the path of purpose does not look like progress. Sometimes it looks like delay, like loss, like being left behind. But what Joseph could not see was that every moment of suffering was shaping him, preparing him, building strength, wisdom, patience that success alone could never create. And the pattern continues. David was chosen by God, anointed to be king. But before the crown came the wilderness. He did not step into power. He ran for his life. Hunted, chased, rejected, he slept in caves, walked through deserts, lived in uncertainty, day after day. Imagine waking up, not knowing if you would survive. Imagine carrying a promise, but seeing no sign of it. Only fear, only silence, only waiting. And yet, it was in that wilderness that David learned something far more valuable than a crown. He learned to trust God, not when life was easy, but when nothing made sense. And then, the greatest example. Even Jesus did not escape suffering. Before the miracles, before the crowds, before the recognition, he was alone, in the wilderness, hungry, weak, tested, and later he would be rejected, misunderstood, betrayed, crucified. If anyone deserved a life without pain, it was him, and yet he suffered, because his suffering had purpose. So what does this mean for you? Suffering is not random, it is not meaningless, it is not proof that God has abandoned you. Sometimes it is preparation, preparation for strength, preparation for wisdom, preparation for purpose. Because without the prison, Joseph would not be ready. Without the wilderness, David would not be ready. Without the cross, there would be no resurrection. But suffering does something deeper. It transforms you. It reshapes your identity. Comfort cannot do that. Ease cannot do that. Success cannot do that. Only pressure, only waiting, only uncertainty can shape a soul that is unshakable. Suffering will test you, not your strength, but your heart. Will you still believe when nothing changes? Will you still trust when everything hurts? Will you still walk when you cannot see the path? Because in those moments, there is no audience, only you and your faith. And when you keep going, something inside you becomes deeper, stronger, unshakable, and slowly you begin to change. Pain opens your eyes, you see others differently, you feel compassion. You understand suffering, because sometimes the pain you wanted to avoid becomes the reason you can help someone else. And one day, you will look back, and everything will make sense. The pain, the waiting, the silence was not there to break you. It was there to build you. If this message spoke to your heart, subscribe to Ancient Bible Stories. Because sometimes one reminder is enough to help you keep walking. And your story is not over yet.